Hail my friends. Please check to make sure that you are still subscribed to this channel. People do get unsubscribed every day. And consider please joining my channel membership. You get exclusive videos, exclusive members only live streams, emojis, and more. Join the Doomcock army. We need you, my friends. Thank you and enjoy this video. Greetings, my friends. I am Dictor Van Doomcock, the future ruler of Earth, and I have received some explosive information from an individual who claims to have insider knowledge regarding Kathleen Kennedy's responsibility for the destruction of the Disney sequel trilogy. This individual has provided a number of allegations regarding what went wrong behind the scenes at Disney, how it all traces back to decisions that Kathleen Kennedy made, and how she really feels about George Lucas, Star Wars, and all of you. I think some of the things I'm about to disclose may make you furious, but if it does, please bear in mind that if the recent rumors I've posted are true, Kennedy is finished at Lucasfilm, if not actually gone, which is probably why more people are coming forward to disclose her role in destroying Star Wars. There's a lot of information for me to parse through, so I may be adding further details to what I'm presenting here in future videos. But for now, here are the broad strokes of what I've been told. Please bear in mind, this is from a brand new source, and I have been unable to personally verify this information, so I must ask you to regard this as unconfirmed rumor and take it with a grain of salt. According to this source, in the beginning, Kathleen Kennedy had no ill intent. She did not set out to destroy Star Wars. The harm that she did to the franchise was more of a snowball effect, a series of bad decisions that gathered momentum until the franchise was buried in an avalanche of suck. When it was time for Lucasfilm to make their first Star Wars film under the new ownership, Disney wanted to play it safe. And Miss Kathy, as those who worked with and around her frequently called her, had the absolutely horrible idea of basically remaking the original Star Wars, only this time, Luke would be a woman. This suited Disney just fine. It seemed safe enough. The film was nothing more than a remake in sequel's clothing, and the public's hunger for new Star Wars guaranteed the film was a wild success despite the nagging familiarity of the reheated leftover plot. $1.5 billion of box office grosses later, Disney thought that Star Wars was going to be a license to print money. They believed they could put anything on the screen and the fans would lap it up. And so Disney, at that point, gave Kathleen Kennedy carte blanche to do whatever she wanted. And the result was The Last Jedi, an absolute franchise-killing catastrophe of a film made by people who thought that Star Wars was fail-proof. It was the perfect storm, a film made by a cinematic agent provocateur who filmed his first draft script and derived personal satisfaction from dividing the audience right down the middle, enabled by a woman who wanted to fundamentally change Star Wars into a propaganda vehicle for intersectional feminism, infamously declaring the Force as female and to hell with the consequences. This cannot fail. This is Star Wars. Except that it wasn't. And the fans knew it. And their rejection of The Last Jedi prompted what this source described as Kathleen Kennedy's dawning hatred of the fans. Quote, "This is where it goes bad," unquote, the source states. Quote, "All the infighting with the fans. I think this is where the hate for the fandom started for her, or was intensified, I'm not sure," unquote. The Last Jedi, according to this source, is exactly the way Kathleen Kennedy wanted it. Ruan Johnson filmed his first draft script with a few additional scenes actually inserted at the request of Kathleen Kennedy. In particular, the scene with Luke milking the space manatee and guzzling the repulsive green liquid straight from the manatee. This was a scene that Mark Hamill obviously did not want to do, but of course he was overruled by both Johnson and Kennedy. So as it turns out, as per this source, one of the most loathed scenes in movie history was conceived of and implemented by Kathleen Kennedy herself. But worse was coming, as Kennedy was about to demand the inclusion of the one scene that utterly destroyed the Star Wars saga. More on that in a few minutes. When asked if Kennedy set out to destroy George Lucas's creation, this source replied, quote, "Well, not so much to destroy it, at first," unquote. But after a while, that may have changed, as reportedly tension between Kennedy and Lucas escalated, and Kennedy came to resent and oppose Lucas's attempts to pull Star Wars out of its death spiral. The source then went on to describe just how insanely out of control things got as the final chapter in the Star Wars saga entered production. Quote, "I know all of you have been told that The Rise of Skywalker was a mess behind the scenes. Trust me, you don't know the half of it. Outside of Solo, I've never seen anything like this. The reshoots for this movie were insane. The changes were almost daily, adding characters only to take them out. It was awful." This information seems to support the claims I made in a recent video regarding the lack of Rise of Skywalker toys in stores that Christmas, stating toy companies were stymied by the constant changes in the production, changes that made it impossible to plan out a toy line. My people asked this source if they knew how much was spent on The Rise of Skywalker between the various versions. The source replied, quote, "I don't know the exact number. I can say it was over the 600 million mark. Yeah, I was in several meetings where it was stated, this is the most expensive movie Disney has made. That was not a bragging point." End quote. This source then goes on to detail some of what went down with The Rise of Skywalker, how the production went so wrong, and how it burned bridges between Kennedy and Lucas. Quote, "About midway into October, JJ wrapped production. There was only one set up at that time, the Emperor set, it was called. JJ left and sent the movie to post so the editors could finish the movie. When Kathleen Kennedy saw the progress about a week later, I can personally tell you she was not happy that JJ and George didn't listen to any of her input. A few days later, she called back Adam, Daisy, and some stunt doubles to redo the ending the way she wanted. My spy asked the source, quote, 'Is this one of the shoots in November we heard about?' The source replied, quote, 'Yes, and that's why the final fight looked so blurry and the kiss looked so strange. The guys in post didn't have the time to iron it out,' unquote. But even worse, this source reveals that the ending of the Star Wars saga, the one scene that turned the Skywalker saga into the Palpatine Saga, was created by Kathleen Kennedy. According to my source, quote, 'That whole I'm Rey Skywalker scene with the two sons was a middle finger to George. Yeah, at that point, The Rise of Skywalker was basically a pissing match between her and him,' unquote. In fact, according to this source, Kathleen Kennedy's hostility to George Lucas was so extreme that Kennedy personally called George Lucas the night before the premiere and told him she was going to change the ending of the film and the entire saga from what he wanted to what she wanted. Can you imagine it? Rey Palpatine standing there at the end of the movie, taking the Skywalker name, taking his ancestral home, burying his lightsaber in the ground, standing on his porch and sucking up his twin sunset fundamentally changed the entire Star Wars saga. It was no longer the Skywalker saga. It was now the Palpatine Saga, the story of how the Palpatines triumphed over the Skywalker clan and took everything from them. It was a Palpatine that was the last woman standing at the end of The Rise of Skywalker. Star Wars is now a story about the triumph of evil, thanks to Kathleen Kennedy. There could be no stronger rejection of George Lucas than this, turning his tale of redemption and hope into a dirge of derision and despair, all because of Kathleen Kennedy. If this source is correct, Kennedy forced an ending on The Rise of Skywalker and by extension, the entire saga as a middle finger to George Lucas himself. But what of the fans? What does Miss Kathy feel about the fans, according to this source? Quote, "Well, after The Rise of Skywalker, she was pretty much put in the hot seat, and then Jon Favreau came in and everyone loved The Mandalorian. So to say she hates the fans at this point would be an understatement. In previous videos, I've mentioned other sources saying Kennedy vowed to burn Star Wars down if she was ever forced to make her exit. Well, now that rumors suggest Kennedy is already out in all but name only, my representative asked the source, "For some time now, it seemed Disney was happy to just let her keep going. What changed?" Quote, "She knew her contract wasn't getting renewed, and if you ask me, she was in a frame of mind that she was going to burn it down as she left. I personally think her hiring Leslie Headland was the last straw. After that, investors started to get involved, and I know for a fact she was told there was nothing in her contract saying they had to give her money for her productions. And if she wasn't happy about it, she could quit. After that, she kinda lost it." Unquote. And that is directly from the source. That is not my own words, just to be clear. And there you have it, folks. The sad and sorry tale of fear and loathing at Lucasfilm. It didn't have to be this way. Disney could have empowered any of the generation of Star Wars fans who became writers and directors to create something with love, a fitting tribute to Lucas and his galaxy far, far away. They could have done the Lucas sequel trilogy he wrote, and they could have proceeded from a foundation of respect for the very fans that made Star Wars worth $4.5 billion. That was not to be, and only time will tell if George Lucas's return to Lucasfilm will make a difference. But his return is our last best hope now for Star Wars. From the center of the earth, this is Dictor Van Doomcock bidding you all, my friends, stay angry.
Ha 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 ha.